Bill France Workington. The ICE Futures canola market is stronger Friday morning, seeing a continuation of yesterday's corrective bounce. Gains in Chicago soy oil as activity resumed in the U.S. for a holiday-shortened session were also supportive. Canola up $5 to nearly $9. January up $8.60 at $579.90. U.S. markets were closed yesterday for Thanksgiving, with many market participants still keeping to the sidelines today. Weekly Canadian canola exports of about 131,000 tons were down 30% from last week, but year-to-date exports of 3.7 million tons compare with only 1.8 million at this time last year. Uncertainty over U.S. trade policy when Donald Trump takes office in the new year did remain a bearish influence overhanging the futures. Activity in the U.S. was mixed to start the day, with futures generally range-bound in thin holiday activity. Soybeans mostly lower, down 4 cents in January at $9.84 per bushel. Weekly U.S. soybean export sales of about 2.5 million tons did top trade guesses, with soy oil and meal sales also strong. The USDA announced additional flash sales of about 1 million tons of soybeans to unknown destinations. However, rising South American crop prospects remained a bearish influence, with rains in Brazil aiding development there. Corn, meanwhile, holding on to small gains, up 3 cents in the March contract at $4.31 per bushel. Weekly U.S. corn export sales were in line with trade guesses at 1.1 million tons. However, like beans, the good South American weather is weighing on prices. Wheat futures narrowly mixed, consolidating above their nearby lows. Minneapolis spring wheat up 2 cents in the March contract at $5.93 per bushel. Kansas City hard red winter wheat down a penny in March at $5.43 per bushel. Chicago soft wheat up 0.75 cents in the March contract at $5.49 per bushel. Relatively favorable conditions for the U.S. winter wheat pressured values, as did the fact that cheaper grain from Russia continues to move on the global market. That's a look at the ICE futures and U.S. markets for Friday, November 29th. In Winnipeg, for MarketsFarm.com, I'm Phil France Workington.
Back in 1989, Butler Farm Equipment began providing industry-leading equipment and a top-notch service. 35 years later, they're still going strong. See them for New Holland tractors, balers, skid steers, mowers, and snow removal equipment for farms, construction, oil and gas industry, as well as hobby farms and acreages. Plus, get fall savings on snow removal equipment and remaining zero-turn lawn mowers. Butler Farm Equipment, decades of delivering great service in the Peace region. Visit butlerfarmequipment.ca.
The opinions expressed on this show do not represent those of the station. If you've missed any of the shows, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Welcome to This Week in the Peace, a show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace region. Here's your hosts, Dub Craig and Steve Berard.
Good morning, Dub Craig here. Steve Berard has the day off because we have just one very important guest on the show this morning. You may have heard or seen him swinging suspended above the Safeway parking lot last week. His name is Dan Rigler. He's a board member with Rising Above Ministry, which has just opened a new support kind of a center here in out the Baldonnel Way just recently this year. He was out there and in that crane basket suspended high above the parking lot in Safeway to raise awareness about what they do at the center and also what they do at Rising Above. So I sat down with Dan yesterday to talk a bit about his experience and why he was up there. Here's that conversation. Dan, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So let's talk a bit about this stunt you were a part of this past weekend. You were in a crane basket in the Safeway parking lot here in Fort St. John. I'm not sure exactly how much time you were, but a lot of the time you were about 180 feet suspended in the air in order to sort of raise awareness and hopefully raise some funds for Rising Above Ministries. How did that go for you? It was a really cold weekend to be up there, wasn't it?
It was definitely cold, but it was this is my third time doing this, and it was actually probably the best weekend I've had of the three events that I've done. First time I did this was 11 years ago. It was actually negative 48. So this was a little bit warmer than that, but this was the highest we've ever been. We were at I was sitting at 193 feet this weekend.
Wow.
And
wow.
Yeah, the weather, I mean, obviously it wasn't good, but I'm also thankful for the weather not being good because it's a bigger impact, right? It's when you think about people struggling with cycles of defeat and addiction, guess what? Some of those people don't have places to go, and you are trapped, and life's not very cool. So, you know what? Yeah, the weekend's not very fun being up there, and when it's cold and windy like that, it's not fun. But it's so much worth it to try and paint that picture of what it's like going through some of these addictions.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about what things looked like kind of in the basket itself. Actually, first off, how much time did you spend up there in total? Because I think you were down kind of, I think I saw a video, you were in Safeway Saturday morning for a bit. I assume you were talking to people, but otherwise you were basically in the basket for most of the time, weren't you?
Yeah, like I'd come down for basically like your 3 meals or bathroom breaks. And,
yeah,
so a couple hours out of the 24-hour period, you'd be down. Other than that, I tried to spend most of the time up there.
Yeah. And so what did you have up there? Because I think you, for lack of a better word, a little hut and then a few little amenities, right?
Yeah. So we put styrofoam insulation in there with foil, trying to keep it warm, which it definitely helped, but it was still negative 15 by like at the bottom of the bed. We had a couple space heaters in there, trying to keep it warm, which once again, I mean, it was still cold, but not freezing. And then I just wired in a little light switch with a light so I wasn't sitting in the dark all weekend.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the wind affecting you, like how much sway was kind of happening in the crane bucket? Was there quite a bit?
There's definitely a fair bit. I mean, the nice thing is where I have no window, so you don't see it, right? So because you can't see anything, you don't feel it as much. And I've got accustomed to being swayed like that from flying and travel and all that. So, but as soon as you stepped out, like every time I stepped out of there, it's like, wow, it's really windy up here.
And then I guess my other question, I mean, Dan, were you nervous? Are you fearful at all? I mean, I know I thought about what I would be like if someone said, hey, you should do this for, raising awareness for, or just in general, right? I'm very afraid of heights. I don't think I could have the courage to even step into the bucket. So is this something, are you afraid of heights? Did you have to kind of overcome that a bit to enable to do this each time you have?
So I'm afraid of heights and I'm claustrophobic.
Oh,
so
boy.
just to pile on, but what I found is, it doesn't seem like something I should do, but honestly is after doing this a couple times is, I fully trust what it is. And when I look at the output of it, that is so much worth more than any of my discomfort or fears.
Yeah. And I mean, you did talk about it already a bit, but let's dive into really what this was all about. I know Rising Above Ministries has opened a kind of a center in the last year-ish or so, kind of out by Baldonnel Way, if I remember right. This was in part to sort of raise awareness for what they're doing out there and also to raise funds sort of to either, kind of keep it running and what. So tell me a bit about that part of this sort of thing that you did and how important it was to you to, again, be a part of that and to sort of demonstrate, I think, as you said, sort of the isolation that people who are facing addiction can feel from society and how doing this was your way of saying, oh, I am showing that I can understand a bit of what the people are going through who may need the services of Rising Above Ministries.
Yeah. So Rising Above Fort St. John officially opened its doors October 1st. So, I mean, it's been about a year.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been about a little over a year and a half in the making, working with Rising Above at Grand Prairie to the details, getting the board together, getting all the logistics working. So they did open October 1st. They are still working on getting further approvals through the province so that they can actually increase their capacity up to 6 women in the house. Right now, they can only have 2. So they're still working on that. But one of the things we found, and I guess the reason for this is they rely on community support. There is a little bit of government support, but ultimately it is from the community. And the community can't support it if they don't know who they are. So by going up there in the Man Basket, it got everybody talking this weekend. It creates that awareness of here's an organization to help, right? So it kind of highlights that little bit of that isolation that you might be stuck, but it also represents hope, right? There's a light of hope there for the people going through these addictions who are struggling. And, there's people willing to help. So a large part of this, yes, we're raising money, which is needed for the organization to run, but is looking for those people to come alongside the ministry and say, we want to work with you. We want to partner with you. And one of the cool things was we had numerous people coming in saying, I was a former addict and I got clean and we want to support you guys because we see such value in trying to help people get clean. So we need the community behind us. And ideally is actually people partnering with us on a monthly basis, right? One-time donations are fantastic, but the monthly ones are what, you can really count on that, right? It keeps you going through the month. And it also helps the organization to know that they're not trying to do this on their own, that they have the community behind them.
Absolutely. Now, you're on the board of directors, at least in the kind of Grand Prairie kind of chapter of this, as I understand it. Tell me, let's talk a bit about the need, which I think everyone understands. There's a huge need for centers like this. We have a lot of people facing addiction and they don't have anywhere to go, or they have to wait a long time or what have you, right? So in bringing this to Fort St. John and really kind of getting going in October, talk to us about that process and how that's unfolded and just even the sort of the reaction you've had from the community and, well, thank goodness this is here. I'd like to be, I know someone who could use these services or I'd like to support them.
Yeah. So the really cool thing is that Rising Above Grand Prairie was actually trying, I think over the last 8 years, we've been coming to Fort St. John. We put on some classes and stuff, trying to actually, we wanted to open one up in Fort St. John. So we've had people from the area going to Grand Prairie, and Fort St. John kind of had, I believe it was New Day Ministries, who they had built the house, but it just wasn't quite going how they wanted. And so they actually approached us and said, how would you guys like to partner with us? And so we worked through that. So all of a sudden we've spent, 8 years trying to open up in Fort St. John, couldn't. And all of a sudden now this door opened that it's just there. You have a house ready to go. You have facility, you have all the stuff. And so, yeah, bringing that together made it very seamless. And then, like I said, you have all the permitting, the legal logistics to work through. And is it going as fast as what we would like? Probably not. But when you look at the fact that 8 years, we hadn't really made a lot of progress, and all of a sudden in a year, we're open, we have people in the program already, and we're growing. So that's incredible. The program itself is probably unlike any that we've ever seen. A lot of programs are, 1 week or 1 month. And the thing that's unique with Rising Above is it's a 6-month program, right? So you actually have time to try and get your feet under you. It supplies the housing, a safe, we employ what they call is helps, right? So you have housing, right? So you need somewhere that's safe, to try and get away from some of the stuff. Employment, right? So we work on employable skills. Right? Life skills, right? Sometimes when you fall prey to addictions is you forget some of the basics, like, being responsible for making meals, looking after your house, how to budget, how to do some of those things. Personal development, right? So we work on personal development, how to set safe boundaries, how to have safe places, and some of those conversations that people, quite often they get used. And then we also work the S of spiritual formation. So one of the 12 steps in the 12-step program is realizing it's okay to seek a higher power, right? And so we encourage that, and we work on dealing with the root cause, because quite often people don't wake up and say, I want to be an addict, right? And when you hear some of these stories, I mean, I have a friend who 3 years old, at the age of 3, her mom was a drug addict and started selling her 3-year-old for sex so that she could buy drugs. So tell me that 3-year-old made a choice to turn to addictions, because as she got older, they started drugging her. So where's the choice in that? And these are things that people, having that empathy to listen to people and hear their stories, but she has to work through that hurt to be able to come off and go through the addictions and deal with those. So it's real lives, it's real people, and it really is making an impact. So very passionate about it.
Absolutely. Already looking ahead, I think you said that there's kind of room right now for 6 women to be in the house, and the hope is to have a bit more. Is there even already talk of how can we offer this to even more people in the Fort St. John area? Because again, I mean, we know the need is there overwhelmingly for services like this, and for, as you say, a service that's more than just a week or a few days or a month even, right? Has there been talk about that? How can we get going on this and then make this even, bigger and better and allow more people access to this who need it? Because again, there's so many.
And I don't want to speak for their board, but I do know in conversations with them that yes, they do want to grow. Right now it is a women's residence, but they do want to add for the men to have a residence as well. And they have property to do that. So they want to do that. I would love to see that beds are empty because there's nobody waiting to get in. The sad reality is there's a huge waiting list of people to want to get in, and we can only help as many as we can help, and we'll grow as we can, with the support of the community to try and help this, because one of the things, opioid addictions is huge, is rampant, same as the opioid fatalities. And when you look at crime rates, and everybody says this is an issue, well, here's a proactive way to actually make a positive impact in helping change people's lives, instead of putting people in prisons, instead of putting people in graves, right? Is let's put them in a bed, let's get them the help, but they have to want the help as well. But they need to know that there's a place to go, and share the light with them that there is hope and there is help.
All right, Dan. Well, we've got about a minute left. I want to make sure we talk about how people can help. Whether, as you say, it's a monetary donation, an ongoing monthly monetary donation, which you said is very important right now. And even if someone maybe doesn't have money, but they have time, who can they talk to? How do they reach out to find out more, to give what they can?
So they can go onto the website, which I apologize, I don't have the address on me. I'm sure we can pull up that link, but go through the website, and that's probably one of the easiest ways to connect. There's always ways to help. I mean, money's just one thing, right? But yeah. I mean, there's volunteers. I mean, right now we're getting a lot of snow, so I mean, there could even be snow removal. If somebody has a farm or something, if you have groceries, right? People need to eat. It was really cool. We had a guy donate a blanket, right, that he had made. So I mean, there's so many ways to connect with people, and as they grow, there's going to be mentorship opportunities, right? So it's really, you're coming alongside people in these programs to walk beside them and give them hope that way. So plenty of ways to connect with them and to volunteer and get plugged in.
Absolutely. And again, we don't have the website right in front of us. I'll make sure I provide that. But if you look up Rising Above Ministries, you'll find it very quickly. Dan, thank you very much for taking some time to chat with us today about your experience, and we really appreciate you making the time for it.
And thank you as well.
That was Dan Rigler, a board member with Rising Above Ministry. That website we referred to, by the way, where you can find out more about how you can help out if you'd like, or just more information, is risingabovegp.com. Again, risingabovegp.com. There is information specifically about the Fort St. John chapter there as well. So big thanks again to Dan Rigler of Rising Above Industries, and thank you very much for tuning in today. You can, of course, listen to this show again by checking out the podcast at energeticcity.ca/podcast. We'll also share this and future episodes of the show there as we make them. You can also check out our other locally produced podcasts there as well. I'm Dub Craig. Be well.
Join us again next Friday morning at 10 for another edition of This Week in the Peace, your weekly talk show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace Region. Or you can listen to this podcast again at energetic